You start a debate. Someone makes a claim. You disagree. You present your argument. They respond right away. You explain your reasoning again. They repeat their position. You bring evidence, statistics, examples, quotes. The conversation continues. Back and forth. Point after point. Argument after argument. New information appears. But something strange happens. Nothing changes. Both sides keep explaining. Both sides feel confident. Each person believes the evidence is clear. Each person thinks the other is missing something obvious. The discussion becomes longer, more detailed, more intense. But when it ends, everyone leaves with the same opinion they had before. The debate felt active. The arguments were strong. The information increased, yet their positions remained the same. The usual explanation is bias. People are irrational. They ignore evidence. They only accept information that confirms what they already believe. Psychology often describes this as confirmation bias. The idea is simple. When people receive new information, they filter it. Information that supports their belief is accepted. Information that contradicts it is rejected. The idea looks like this. In theory, debates should introduce new information. New information should lead to reconsideration, and reconsideration should lead to change. But in practice, the sequence rarely happens. Debates often produce the opposite effect. Instead of changing minds, they reinforce them. Think about what often happens during arguments. Both sides present evidence. More facts appear, more explanations are offered, more reasoning appears. Yet something unexpected happens. The positions do not move. Sometimes they become stronger. After a long debate, people often feel more confident than before the discussion began. The pattern looks like this. Information increases, but interpretation does not shift. The debate becomes a contest of arguments, while the underlying belief remains stable. This suggests something deeper is happening. The problem may not be information. It may be interpretation. Information does not automatically change beliefs. Before new information arrives, interpretations have already formed. People turn events into explanations. These explanations stabilize. Once stabilization occurs, the interpretation feels obvious. Events appear to confirm the explanation. Details seem to fit naturally. The interpretation becomes the lens through which new information is seen. Debates rarely change the lens itself. In stable interpretation theory, experience emerges when interpretations stabilize. The process looks like this. Once stabilization occurs, the interpretation becomes resistant to change. New information appears, but instead of reopening interpretation, the mind fits the information into the existing structure. Debates introduce arguments, but the interpretation guiding those arguments may already be stable. Debates rarely reopen stabilized interpretations. Why do debates struggle to reopen interpretations? Several processes reinforce stabilized interpretations. Interpretive defense. Once an interpretation stabilizes, the mind begins defending it. New information is interpreted through the existing structure. Details that support the interpretation feel convincing. Details that contradict it appear weak or misleading. The interpretation quietly protects itself. Narrative protection. Interpretations often form narratives, stories that organize events into meaning. Narratives are powerful. They connect multiple ideas. They explain past events. They predict future outcomes. Changing the interpretation would disrupt the narrative, so the mind prefers to preserve it. Social identity. Beliefs rarely exist in isolation. They connect to communities, political groups, cultural identities, shared values. Changing an interpretation may mean leaving a group or questioning one's identity. The cost of reinterpretation can be social as well as cognitive, so the interpretation remains stable. Stabilized interpretations provide clarity. They simplify complex information. They create consistent explanations. They allow people to navigate the world confidently. But the same stability can also limit flexibility. Once an interpretation stabilizes, alternative explanations become difficult to see. The structure locks in place. The pattern can be illustrated like this. When an interpretation lock forms, new information rarely changes the conclusion. Instead, the interpretation reorganizes the information to maintain its structure. Debates become exchanges of arguments inside already stabilized frameworks. This pattern appears in many areas of life, wherever beliefs have stabilized. Politics. Political debates often involve detailed arguments, statistics, historical examples, policy discussions. Yet, the positions of participants rarely shift. Each side interprets the same information through different stabilized frameworks. Social media. Online discussions intensify this dynamic. Arguments spread quickly, responses appear instantly. Communities reinforce shared interpretations. Debates grow louder. But interpretation rarely reopens. Positions become even more stable. Personal beliefs. Deep personal beliefs often resist debate. Worldviews, moral convictions, philosophical ideas. These interpretations organize many aspects of experience. Changing them would require reorganizing the entire structure, so the interpretation remains stable, even when confronted with strong arguments. Debates often focus on arguments, evidence, logic, reasoning. But arguments alone do not determine belief. Before the debate begins, interpretations may already have stabilized. Once an interpretation stabilizes, information flows through that structure. The pattern looks like this. Debates add information, but they rarely reopen interpretation. And when interpretation remains stable, belief remains stable as well. Changing a mind requires more than argument. It requires reopening interpretation itself.